Hello everyone, I'm back with a new video. Myself Sumeet. So in this video, you all are going to learn very important facts of English literature and key persons in the history of English literature since the beginning of we can say old times, Middle Ages and modern ages. So please stay tuned and don't skip the video because the ages are very important and the people in it are also very important. So let's start with this video.
Let's begin, my dear students and friends. So, the topic is Founders and Fathers of English Literature. The father of English literature and English poetry as well as English language is none other than Geoffrey Chaucer, who was born in 1340s and he died on 25th of October 1400. He was a great English poet, author, morning star of Renaissance, first national poet of England, and his most famous book is The Canterbury Tales, and he was buried in the Poets' Corner in Westminster Abbey. He also gained fame as a philosopher, astronomer, and wherein he has composed a scientific treatise on the astrolabe for his 10-year-old son Lewis, wherein he maintained his career in the civil service as a bureaucrat, courtier, diplomat, and member of parliament. His major books are The Book of the Duchess, The House of Fame, The Legend of Good Women, and Troilus and Cresside. He was the major person in the Middle English period, wherein he wrote in French, Latin, and finally in English. So we will begin to the next slide. Father of English prose, who is King Alfred the Great, who was born in 849 and he died on 26th of October 899. He was the king of Wessex from 871 to 886 and he was the king of Anglo-Saxons and he was the youngest son of the king Athwulf of Wessex. He fought with Vikings and won the Battle of Edington, wherein he converted Viking leader Guthrum to Christianity. He defeated his kingdom against the Viking attempt at conquest and became the dominant ruler of England. He belonged to the House of Wessex, which is located in the southwest of England. So the next slide is about the father of English comedy, who is Nicholas Udall. He was born in 1504 and he died in 23rd December 1556. He was English playwright, schoolmaster, author of Rolf Royster Doyster, which is also regarded as the first comedy written in English language. Udall translated part of Apothegms by Erasmus. His Ralph Royster Doyster was presented to Queen Mary in 1553. Most important thing here is father of English comedy is Nicholas Udall, but the father of English comedy in Europe or in Greece is Aristophanes, who was born in 446 BC and he died in 386 BC. The next slide is about the father of English tragedy, who is Christopher Marlowe, who was born on 26 February 1564 and he died on 30th May 1593. A great English dramatist, poet, translator, and the foremost dramatist in London, England. His major plays are Hero and Leander, Tamburlaine the Great, The Jew of Malta, Dr. Faustus, King Edward II, and The Massacre at the Paris. Whereas Henry IV is written with collaboration with the famous playwright William Shakespeare. His another tragedy, or we can say the another tragedist in the Greek literature is Aeschylus. He is also called as the father of tragedy in Greek literature. The next slide is about the father of drama. So we all know he is none other than William Shakespeare, born on 26th of April 1564 and died on 23rd of April 1616. He is also the world's greatest writer, dramatist, poet, wherein whereas he has written 39 plays and 154 sonnet, also called as England's national poet. He's, he has also written two long narrative poems. He also wrote comedies, histories, and tragedies, wherein the famous ones are Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, and Othello, as well as King Lear, Macbeth are his finest works in the history of English language. He wrote in the Elizabethan and Jacobean era. The next person is father of English novel. He is Henry Fielding, born on 22nd April 1707 and died on 8th October 1754. Great novelist and playwright. With Samuel Richardson, he is also considered as the founder of English novel. His major novel is Joseph Andrews, published in 1742, and another is Tom Jones, published in 1749. Sir Walter Scott called Henry Fielding the father of English novel, and the phrase which is still indicates Henry Fielding's place in the history of literature. And the next is most important person in the history of Europe as well as in the history of England, because this is the person who started printing in Europe and which came to England also. We will learn in the next slide. Now, Johannes Guttenberg is the person who born in 1400 and he died in 1468. He was a German goldsmith, inventor, printer, publisher who introduced printing to Europe with printing press, which is mechanical movable type printing, and it became the printing revolution in Europe. It played a key role in Renaissance, Reformation, Age of Enlightenment, and Scientific Revolution also. Now, the next slide is about the father of printing in England, who is William Caxton, who was born in 1422 and died in 1491. He was an English merchant, diplomat, writer, first person to introduce printing press, and a retailer of printed books in England. Caxton was also credited with the standardizing English language through printing, wherein he printed 80% of works in English language, which were formerly written in Greek, Latin, and other languages. His first book printed in 1477 in English was The Dictates and Sayings of the Philosophers. And the next slide is about the major persons in the history of English literature. The first person is John Wycliffe, who is the morning star of Reformation. Next is Venerable Bede, who is called as the father of English learning and history. Next person is Francis Bacon, who is called as the father of modern prose and essay. John Dryden is also called as the father of English criticism. Thomas Kidd is also called as the father of revenge tragedy, wherein his most famous tragedies are yet read, studied, and worked. Sir Walter Scott is called as the father of historical novel. He has written many historical novels, and Edmund Spenser is also called as the second father of English poetry. The father of English grammar is called as Lindley Murray. Charles Lamb is called as the prince of English essayist, whereas William Hazlitt is called as the critic's critic. The next slide, we will learn about the fathers and founders of techniques. Henry James and his brother William James, they both coined a technique which is the stream of consciousness technique, and James Joyce used in his novels. The next is Dr. Samuel Johnson, who is also called as the father of one-act play. We all know, we have just now mentioned about the Geoffrey Chaucer, who is also called as the father of plagiarist. Dante Gabriel Rossetti is known as the pre-Raphaelite founder of the pre-Raphaelite movement. Horace Walpole is called as the father of Gothic novels, and John Dryden is called as the father of English criticism. Eugene O'Neill is called as the father of modern drama, and Edgar Allan Poe is called as the father of short story. Robert Frost is also called as the poet of terror. The next slide is about Christopher Marlowe. He is also called as the Night School of Poetry and Metaphysical School of Poetry. This term is coined to John Donne. Whereas the next person and the most important person of Romanticism is William Wordsworth, who is also called as the nature poet, the nature worshipper, and he founded the Lake School of Poetry. His very close friend and relative is Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who is also supposed to, we can say, wrote a book with him that is Lyrical Ballads. And he is also called as the poet of supernaturalism. Next is P.B. Shelley, who is called as the revolutionary poet. And Cockney School of Poetry was started by William Hazlitt. Graveyard School of Poetry is started by Thomas Gray. William Butler Yeats, he started the Irish theatre movement, and the great dramatist George Bernard Shaw is also very famous, and he founded uh, different kinds of dramas and wrote different kinds of dramas which are very famous till date. John Milton, whose Paradise Lost is very famous, is also called as the epic poet and master of verse. Next is the founders of societies, wherein Frederick James Furnivall started the Chaucer Society, Richard Steele started the Shakespearean Society, Francesco Petrarch, very important person who started the Italian sonnet form, and in England, Sir Thomas Watt and Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, started the or they started using sonnets in English form. Dr. Samuel Johnson founded the club, which was a dining club wherein they used to sit and study about uh, the different types or techniques to write major things. Robert Bridges, he started a society for pure English, and James Furnivall started New Shakespearean Society. Helena Petronova Blavatsky started the Theosophical Society, and Noam Chomsky is known as the father of modern linguistics. Richard Steele and Joseph Edison, they both started the journal Spectator, and hereafter the people started using journals and they started to write down their articles. Matthew Arnold started the touchstone method in his novels. And the next slide is founders and exponents of literary terms and literary things. The first is William Shakespeare, who was the exponent of tragic comedy, wherein his Romeo and Juliet is very famous. Samuel Richardson, he started epistolary novel, wherein epistolary novel means a kind of novel wherein letters are, we can say, took together and it is published. So it is called as the epistolary novel. Gerald Manley Hopkins is called as the exponent of the sprung rhythm, which is used in the poems written by Hopkins. Francis Bacon is called as the exponent of social essays. His essays are very famous. Bacon's essays are very, very famous. Thomas Hardy is called as the exponent of regional novels, wherein he has written novels based on that place in London, which is to the southern part of England, and he wrote mainly focusing upon the part of that novels. So that is why it is called as the regional novels. Jane Austen, also called as the anti-romantic, she started or she is also called as the exponent of the domestic novels, wherein she portrayed the life of women in the house, what are the problems they face, and so on. Next is Robert Browning. He is also called as the exponent of the dramatic monologue, wherein only one person tells or shares or narrates the story. Yvonne Richards is exponent of the practical criticism, and Lord Byron is the founder of Satanic School of Poetry, wherein they wrote a very different kind of poetry based on the satans and the other things. Sigmund Freud, a very famous person in the psychology, is called as the founder of psychoanalysis, and John Dryden is called as the father of English criticism. Next slide is about father, introducer, and associated people, wherein Sir Thomas Watt, who introduced sonnet in England, is very famous, as well as Henry Howard, who introduced blank verse. Walt Whitman introduced free verse. P.B. Shelley introduced the terza rima, which he used in most of his poems. Dr. Samuel Johnson is very famous for his first ever dictionary, which he wrote down and which was published in 1755. William Emerson is associated with ambiguity, and Northrop Frye is associated with archetypal criticism. Thomas Gray is associated with Graveyard School of Poetry, and Samuel Pepys introduced the diary writing, which was published in 1825, his own diary. Aphra Behn is called as the first professional writer. So, friends, you all have come across a very brief history of the English literature, and I hope you will share with your friends and family. So, thank you very much.
So this was it for today's video, my dear friends. And if you like it, don't forget to share with your family and friends. And please comment also. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more upcoming videos. Thank you so much.